Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into the Seahawks. So the Seahawks last year, they finished 9-8, and if I remember correctly, it was a long time ago. Should have probably looked this up, but they last week of the season or the week before they got eliminated from the playoffs, right? It was like one of the last 2 weeks. Okay.
Last game of the season. I think we
That's
needed the Packers to lose
and
again. So that time it didn't happen. The year before it did. So kind of funny that we're always riding on the Packers.
yeah. Well, the Packers and the Seahawks have some history. So let's talk about them and their offseason and moving forward. What was your favorite move that they made this offseason?
Yeah, shoring up the D line. Byron Murphy, I loved that pick. That could have, if I could have hand chosen a guy at that spot where we were drafting 16, I believe Byron Murphy would have been him. And then re-signing Leonard Williams. I know he's older, but he had so much presence. He's a big body, good for run D, and ours was the worst last year. So, and then you got guys backing them up like Uchenna, Nwosu, and Boye Mafe. So it'll be better, much improved.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold my. Go ahead, Clint. What's yours? What's your favorite move that the Seahawks made?
I like the linebacker, Trice Knight, they got in the fourth round. I think it was out of Utah. I think he is like their linebacker of the future with McDonald. He kind of like knows linebackers. So I think he's kind of like sneaky, fell through the cracks. He wasn't overly quick, but he seems like he has a good understanding of the game. And I would trust Mike McDonald with the linebacker that he wanted.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into my favorite move. I like the coach they hired, very defensive minded. You know, I think they took him from the Ravens. We know how good the Ravens defense has been over the years. So I think good hiring from the Seahawks. And they have a history recently of winning games defensively. So I just really like that the pickup of him. I think he's going to go a long way. And considering that one of the weaker side of the ball was the defensive side of the ball, I think that was a good hire by the Seahawks. Let's go least favorite move. Talon, what was your least favorite move that your team made?
Kind of similar to the Cardinals, just kind of mediocre offseason. We signed a little bit of linebacker help, drafted the guy Clint was talking about, but I think Mike McDonald wants to get a season under his belt before he starts really making requests and wanting to look after getting some big name players to shore up some obvious weak points, because we got rid of a lot of contracts that we were stuck in with the two safeties, Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs. I love Quandre Diggs, but it was time to lose those guys, start fresh. But we didn't really do anything to upgrade, so we're downgraded at that position, which is a bummer. So it's just not as competitive, and I would have liked to see us be more competitive since this is the most money we've had in capital in years. So
yeah, you wonder if they're kind of waiting to see what like the Rams age out a little bit before they start hitting it hard, and maybe the Niners. What about you, Clint? What is your least favorite move that they made?
Yeah, Talon touched on it. Tyrell Dodson and Jerome Baker, they're like, meh. Yeah, they're fine to fill a gap, but I think Talon beat me to the point. I think Mike McDonald just put some Band-Aids on the positions he likes, like someone he knows, okay, Dotson, Jerome Baker, we can get them to do the basics. I mentioned they drafted Knight. Maybe they'll bring him along at the end of the year if the year goes poorly. But I just, like, when I go through the NFC West, or when I look at teams the 49ers play, because the 49ers attack linebackers in the run game and the short pass game, and I'm like, I always say this to my friends that are Packer fans. I'm like, if your linebackers are trash, I'm not that worried about the 49ers not being able to score on you, because they can set it. So for Seattle, I really love Mike McDonald, and I think in a year or two, the Seahawks will be really good when he can get his hand on it. But I think he touched on it. This is let's see what we have, try some things here. And the those two linebackers in particular were just for me.
Yeah, like you said, it's like the Cardinals, right? They didn't make a whole lot of moves. One thing, Gino's 33. And I know like sometimes I just wonder what they're doing for their quarterback for the future. Obviously they can address it in a different draft, maybe when they're much more down on Gino, but I think it would have been nice for them to either kind of like just take a swing at a young quarterback that was out there in like free agency or for a trade or even just drafting one. Now, obviously, if you don't love a guy or you don't want to move up, I don't like encourage drafting, but Sam Howell, I mean, he's fine, but he's he's not like a backup that like you kind of know what he is. So I guess just to be a little nitpicky, this isn't that big of a deal, but I would have liked them to see them do something a little bit more exciting as far as backing up Geno Smith in case he got injured. Like, hey, could we get somebody for the future or whatever? You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I would kind of nitpick on.
I think we were expecting Penix to fall to us in the draft.
See, I think you're right.
Whatever the Falcons were doing. So when that doesn't happen, you draft BPA, best player available.
Right.
And I do like the price we got for Sam Howell. It's kind of like what we did with Drew Lock. Like, let's see what we got. I think Sam Howell has got some serious talent. I think the Commanders kind of bailed chip on him super fast. But yeah, I agree with you. It'd be nice to go back to having a really good quarterback again.
I mean, he's only 23.
Yeah.
Maybe that is a good, like, I mean, hopefully you don't have to find out, but it's just like, it's not when you sign Sam Howell, nobody's like, oh, I wonder what he's capable of, you know what I'm saying? So
hey, no one thought that when the Saints signed Drew Lock or Drew Brees from the Chargers years ago. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Don't bring that up because the Dolphins should have signed him. And I felt like they should have signed him at the time, but whatever. We don't have to talk about it. Okay, so that's our least favorite. Let's go to our green flag. Let's go to your green flag for your Seattle Seahawks talent.
I think we're going to be a top tier offense this year. I really do. I think we're going to take that step, and I think JSN's going to take that step. He was hurt at the beginning of last season. People tend to forget that. Our offensive coordinator, that's now the Bears offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, that's terrible. That guy was a joke. He didn't know how to use a rookie wide receiver. So JSN is going to take a huge leap forward. Tyler Lockett will still be consistent. DK. I think we know who we get out of Metcalf now. JSN's going to be that difference maker that's going to push us to top 12, inside the top 12 offense.
Okay. Bold prediction. I like it. Clint, what about you? Big green flag for the Seahawks.
New coach and new system.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fresh start for them, and that's what they needed. Like, Pete Carroll was fine. I mean, he was excellent for years, but like anything, it kind of gets old. And I think it kind of ran its course. And Talon was right. Like last year, Shane Waldron, like, I don't know what they were doing. Like, I think JSN's average depth of target was like the same that I would average in an NFL game, like right at the line of scrimmage and nothing else. So it's good that they moved on from that. So my green flag for them, whether it pays instant benefit this year or not, is that they turned it over. I like their coach, their offensive coordinator, and you can, if it works earlier this year, maybe you have some surprise. But even if it doesn't, you're going to figure out what you have and what you need to do after this year.
Yeah, and just to kind of build off that, the stepping stone, which is, for your defense, I think that's huge to start this year. Like Jerome Baker, he's a former Dolphin, right? Like one of his underrated qualities is rushing the passer, and I think like somebody, the defensive minded coach like McDowell, he'll put Baker in those positions, which I think will be nice for him. I'm also going to say, if they can not have more than 10 different starting offensive line, like different variations of offensive line in the first couple weeks of the season, that'd be awesome. So it's a green flag in the sense of like, maybe I'm not saying it's going to be a great offensive line, but if you could just have some consistency there, which it looks like they have it set up right now, to have with Williams and Cross and Lucas, Lincoln Tomlin coming over there. I just think like it'd be nice if they can just have a consistent start to the season, let them grow together instead of like 10 different variations of offensive line in the first like how many weeks of the season. So that is a green flag that they have some idea what they're going to do. So red flag, Talon, what's your biggest red flag?
Yeah, it's on the same lines of the offensive line if they can stay healthy. However, John Schneider never really puts priority to that since he's been GM. It just never seems like it's his top concern, which is always worrisome. So he could have gone out and signed some guards. Clint mentioned about the signings of the guards for the Rams. It's like I'm thinking, like, come on, Seattle, do something. You know that meme with the little stick figure and the stick? He's like poking at it, like do something. That's how I felt. Like do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I did like the Connor Williams. That was not that was a solid pickup.
Sure.
Clint, what about you? What's your red flag?
They're basically in combination, Geno Smith and the offensive line. The line ranked out as 29th going into the season. And if Geno Smith doesn't have time, we can just bury that, which is why I'm semi-optimistic on Sam Howell. Like, for my sake, I think Sam Howell will play the second half of the year if the Seahawks, fall behind and, lose a handful of games or whatever, because one, you don't want to guarantee, I don't know what Geno's injury guarantee is for next year, but if it's a lost season, we kind of know what Geno Smith is at this point, but maybe we're not sure if Sam Howell can run this new system. So the red flag for that would be if the O-line is as bad as it was last year, that's going to really hamper their prospects.
Yeah, and I'm with you on the Geno part of like you got to protect Geno, and if that offensive line is not consistent, it's going to be another tough year for Geno to start out because he played pretty okay considering the circumstances last year that he was dealt. So, yeah. Okay, fantasy football go-to. Talon, you got a fantasy football go-to?
Yeah, DK Metcalf. He's fallen so far, and he's got the potential to be a wide receiver one with just a little bit more consistency. Who would you take? Because these guys are always around the same spot. I'll give you 4 names: Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, and Deebo Samuel. Order.
Samuel.
So if Brandon Ayuk is gone, then Deebo Samuel would be my first.
For sure.
But let's just assume he stays. Then I would probably put DK fourth.
Fourth.
I
think DK has more upside than a Devonta Smith, physicality wise. I'm probably going Deebo, Metcalf, Kupp, Smith. That's my order.
Yeah, I would put Smith or Metcalf fourth for me because I agree. Like Devonta Smith, another one of those guys I had in traded in this other league because it's like he has it, but they focus so much on AJ Brown. And I was semi-burned by DK Metcalf because last year on this podcast, I think I said DK Metcalf was going to get like 14 touchdowns.
Yeah, and
so I was like,
touchdowns are he's due for some improvement in the touchdown area. He's targeted a lot, so if that percentage goes up.
Yeah, I agree with Smith being fourth because clearly the focus of that offense has been AJ Brown. They just got Saquon this offseason, so he's going to be more of a focal point. So Deebo one. I think I would go. Oh man, here's the thing with Metcalf that if Nigba there, if he takes that step that like he's going to be taking targets away from DK and Lockett. So it just depends of how big of a leap Nigba takes.
I think JSN will take targets more so away from Lockett over Metcalf because Metcalf and JSN are so they profile so differently. It's tough.
Yeah, and then you got the concern about the injury with Kupp. So if you get Kupp and like if I knew he was playing all 17 games, I'd take Kupp, right?
Sure, exactly.
Metcalf's at least a little bit more durable. So if you want the safe pick, Metcalf would be over Kupp, right? But I think so I would probably go and like Samuel, Metcalf, Kupp, and Smith, or if like I got let's say I got Justin Jefferson in the first round, I'm drafting a number 2 receiver. I want high upside. I'm going to go Kupp before Metcalf. So I guess it just depends how you're
the landscape of your team.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like if I went running back the first and second round and I needed a consistent, I'd go Metcalf as the receiver to take. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay. Great fantasy questions, Talon. Awesome. Okay, let's go to predictions then. Oh wait, did I ask your fantasy go to, Clint?
No.
Do you want me to? Go ahead.
No, I put 2. Zach Charbonnet, just for if Walker kind of falls out of favor, if they kind of do things more like in Baltimore, and he's a boomer bust guy, injury upside. I put JSN as maybe someone to target after a few weeks, because maybe he starts slow to give respect to Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, and they kind of work him in. So if he has a couple flat games 2-3 weeks in, he would be a guy I would try to trade for, because I do agree that in this new offensive system, they are going to get him more involved as the season goes on. So sometimes he gets drafted a little higher than I might want right now, but I think he might start a little slow, and he'd be a guy I would go after, because I think as the season goes on, and if, again, the Seahawks fall out of contention, they might work some magic and see what they can get with him, get him moving around and more involved.
Okay. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I kind of I can see the logic there, because he's not a high flyer. Even if you wait it, like if you have a deep enough draft, like I have a draft where I have 7 bench players. Like if it's your 7th guy or 6th guy on your bench, just as a flyer, that's even good. Okay. I should really change this question. Maybe I'll do it next year, like fantasy advice, football fantasy advice regarding said team, because I'd be like, never. Like I go week by week defense. I'll just pick up a defensive, whoever's play. I would never pick the Seahawks. Never pick up the Seahawks defense. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, let's predict the season for the Seahawks. What do you got on finishing there, Talon?
10-7.
10-7. Okay, Clint.
Flip it, 7-10.
Okay.
Oh.
Boo.
Oh. That's what I had for the Niners.
I have them finishing 9-8. And as of right now, we'll obviously do a big season preview podcast where we pick division winners and wild card and stuff. But I think the last game between the Rams and the Seahawks, week 18, will determine who gets that. In my own head, who might get that 7th seed in the playoffs. They'll both be 9-8, though. I think so.
I'm tired of not clinching a playoff spot like the Seahawks have bowled by week 14. That was so nice. No pressure.
Well, plan on another year, my man.
I know.
Because even if you go 10-7, that could get to the point where you're waiting till the last 2 weeks.
For
before,
sure.
Yeah.
No, I know. It's just torture.
Okay. Speaking of. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.